There's a cabin in my mind right now, snug against a hillside, chinked tight against the wind, a good iron stove sitting in the corner, still holding a bed of gray ash from the night before. And there's a man inside it, laid out in his bunk under a heavy wool blanket, and he is frozen stiff as a fence post. Not outside in the storm where you'd expect to find a man like that. Inside, in his own bed, in the one place on that whole mountain he'd built with his own two hands to keep himself alive. Now I know how that sounds. A man freezes to death inside a warm cabin. It's the kind of thing you hear and want to argue with, the kind of thing that doesn't sit right in your gut. But stay with me, because I've seen the shape of how this happens with my own eyes, and once I lay it out for you plain, it's going to change the way you think about every warm room you ever slept in for the rest of your life. Here's the thing that ought to stop you cold. The cabin didn't fail him. The stove didn't fail him. His woodpile was stacked high against the outside wall, and his roof was sound, and not one flake of snow came through it all night. Everything a man builds to save himself was working just fine, and it killed him anyway, because the warm cabin does one thing to a man that the open snow never can. It lies to him. It tells him he's safe at the exact moment the trap is already closing around his throat, and the fix for it, same as always out here, cost nothing at all. Not a dollar, not a dime, not a single coin out of a thin trapper's purse. Just a little knowing that most folks alive today have plain forgotten. Let me tell you who I am first, so you understand I'm not sitting here spinning you a campfire tale. I've wintered alone in country where the nearest other living soul was 2 hard days of walking through snow that came up past my waist. I've run a trap line off a cabin no bigger than a garden shed, eating what I caught, and going cold the nights I built my fire wrong. And I've learned the things I'm about to hand you the only way they ever truly stick, which is by needing them bad enough that forgetting them would have been the end of me. The old hands who taught me didn't read this in any book. They learned it the way the woods teaches everything worth knowing, which is by burying the men who got it wrong and remembering exactly how they died. Now before I go on, do me one small thing. If you want the old ways kept alive, hit that subscribe button and give this one a like, and tap the little bell so the next one finds its way to you. Because a lot of what I'm telling you here is the kind of knowing that nearly went into the ground with the men who carried it, and it only stays alive if folks like you keep it moving hand to hand. That's the whole reason I sit here and look you in the eye and talk to you like this. So subscribe, give it a like, ring that bell, and let's get on with it. Here's the first thing you have to understand, and if you miss this part, none of the rest of it will hold together for you. When most folks picture freezing to death, they picture a man caught out in the open, no shelter over him, wind tearing at his coat, snow driving in sideways, and that man is in real danger, no question about it. But here's what you have to see. That man is scared. That man knows down in his bones that he's in a fight for his life, and his fear is doing him a favor because it keeps him moving, keeps him building, keeps him feeding his fire, keeps him alert to every last drop in the temperature. The cold out in the open is a loud thing, and a loud thing keeps a man honest. The man in the warm cabin is not scared. And that, right there, is exactly the problem. See, a warm cabin fools your body in a way the open woods never could. You come in out of the wind half frozen, you get that stove roaring, and the whole room warms up around you like a summer afternoon. Your face goes hot. Your hands stop their aching. The frost melts right off your beard, and your whole body sends one single message up to your brain, and that message is, "We made it. We're safe now. We can finally let our guard down." So the man does exactly that. He peels off his damp outer layers and hangs them by the fire. He settles down deep into that bunk. He lets the stove burn low because he's warm and he's bone-tired, and getting up to feed it feels like more trouble than it's worth. And he falls into the deepest, most contented sleep he's had in a solid week. And while he sleeps, the fire dies. Now here's where it turns, so hold tight to this next part, because it's the whole spine of the story. A stove is not the sun. A stove warms the air and nothing more, and warm air is the very first thing to leave a room the second the fire stops feeding it. That heat you're feeling, that lovely heat that told you you were safe, it has no weight to it at all. It's borrowed heat, and the loan comes due fast and hard. A cabin can slide from warm as a kitchen to killing cold in the space of just a few hours once those coals give out, and it does it silently, without a sound, while you're too comfortable and too deep asleep to notice the tide going out from under you. But hold on, because the dropping air temperature isn't even the thing that truly kills him. That's just the door swinging open. The thing that actually reaches in and gets him is quieter and crueler than that, and it comes down to two words the old hands feared more than they ever feared any blizzard howling outside. Those two words are damp and still. Let me lay it out for you plain. When that man came in from his day on the line, he came in wet. Not soaked through, maybe, but damp. Sweat from the long walk. Snow melted down into his wool. The moisture that a hard-working body throws off all day long without you ever thinking about it. And in a warm cabin, that damp feels like nothing at all. It even feels good, steaming gentle by the fire. But damp is a thief that works on a delay, and that's what makes it so deadly. Damp clothing, damp bedding, damp anything pressed up against your bare skin. It pulls the warmth out of your body many times faster than dry ever could. As long as that stove roars, you don't feel a bit of it. But the moment the stove dies down, that damp turns on you like it had been waiting the whole night for its chance. And it had. That's the trap, baited and set, and waiting for him. The warm cabin invites a man to get comfortable in wet clothes. The open woods never would. Out in the open, a man knows better than to sit still in damp wool, because out there the cold reminds him every second. But inside, where it's warm and cozy, he does the one thing that'll quietly kill him, and it feels like the most natural and sensible thing in the whole world. If this is landing for you, do me a favor and hit that like button right now, and if you haven't done it yet, go on and subscribe and ring that bell. It tells me you want more of the real old ways, the ones nobody out there is selling, and it's the only way these lessons keep reaching the folks who genuinely need them. Now let me show you the fix, because this next part is what actually matters. The old hands did it in layers, and I'll hand it to you the very same way it was handed to me, because dumping it all at once would rob it of its weight. The first layer flips your whole head clean around. You do not trust the stove. Not ever. The stove is a guest that slips out in the night without so much as saying goodbye. So you build your warmth to survive the fire going out, not to lean on it staying lit. Every other thing I tell you follows from that one hard truth. The second layer is the one that nearly everybody alive today gets backward. You get dry before you get comfortable, before you sit, before you eat, before you do one single thing that feels like rest. You strip off every damp layer you're wearing, and you get yourself into something dry, or you get those wet clothes drying proper, hung up and turned, not just steaming on your back while you wear them by the fire. A man who lies down to sleep in the clothes he worked and sweated in all day is a man betting his whole life on that fire never once dying. And that's a bet the woods will eventually make him lose. Dry first, comfortable second. Always in that order and never the other way around. The third layer is the one that would have flat out saved the man I told you about at the start. You put insulation under you and over you that doesn't need the fire at all. A thick pile of spruce boughs laid crosswise on the bunk. A deep heap of dry grass or bark or extra wool packed between your body and that cold cabin floor. Because here's what folks never stop to think about. The floor of a cabin gets just as cold as the bare ground outside once that fire's gone, and it'll drink the warmth straight down out of you through a thin bunk all night long, quiet as anything. You build yourself a nest that would keep you breathing till morning, even if you'd never struck a single match. And then the fire becomes a comfort instead of a crutch. That, right there, is the whole difference between the men who woke up and the men who didn't. The fourth layer feels almost like cheating once you learn it. You bank that fire so it lives clear through the night. You don't let it roar itself out in 1 hour of foolish glory and then leave you with nothing. You build it down low and slow, packed tight and covered over so it ticks along steady for hours, giving you a good bed of coals to build from come morning instead of a cold dead stove and hands gone too stiff to strike a light. A roaring fire is a young man's fire. A banked fire is an old hand's fire. And the old hand, you'll notice, is the one who's still around to tell you about it. Now, circle back with me to the riddle I planted at the very start, that puzzle of how a warm man freezes to death in his own bed. Because here's the whole answer laid out plain, and once you see it, the rest of it locks into place. He froze because the warmth lied to him about 3 separate things all at once, and the poor man believed all 3. It told him he was safe, so he stopped preparing. It told him his damp clothes were just fine, so he never got himself dry. And it told him the fire would surely hold, so he never built the warmth that lives on without it. Then, somewhere in the blackest, coldest, deadest hour of that long night, the stove gave out, and the damp turned on him, and the cold came creeping up through the bunk, and he never once woke up to feel a bit of it happen. Because that kind of cold, the slow kind, the kind that steals in soft after the fire dies, it doesn't sting a man awake the way the wind does. It just pulls him down softer and softer into the sleep he's already deep in. He was warm as toast when he lay down, and he was gone long before he was ever cold enough to be afraid. And I won't skip the one hard fact that proves I'm not just spinning you a tale by the fire, because this business is written down better than most old ways lessons I know. The people who study how a body dies in the cold have a name for the strangest part of it, a thing they call paradoxical undressing, where a freezing man, in his last confused hours, feels a sudden flush of heat and tears his own clothes off, certain he's burning up. They've found them that way more than once. A man half-stripped in the snow or in his own bunk, having thrown off the very layers that might have carried him through. And the reason behind it is the same reason the cabin kills. The body's own sense of warm and cold, the very thing you'd bet your life on, turns liar on you right at the end when the core goes cold. Your warmth telling you you're safe is the last and cruelest lie the cold ever tells a man. That's not a legend I'm handing you. That's a thing written down in plain ink by folks whose whole job is understanding exactly how the cold takes a man. And you're probably wondering by now why nobody ever bothered to tell you this. Why it isn't just plain common knowledge that every child knows. And the answer is the quiet kind, the kind that's about money and not about any mystery at all. There is a whole industry today built on selling you the warm room, the heater, the cabin kit, the fancy sleeping bag with a number stamped proud on the tag, the little gadget that promises to keep the cold off you if you'll just keep on buying. And every last one of those things sells you the exact same lie the warm cabin told that dead man. It sells you comfort and calls it safety. There's good money in a warm room a man has to keep paying for season after season. There's no money at all in teaching that same man to build a bed that keeps him alive whether his fire lives or dies. So, the free knowing got crowded out and pushed aside, not by any plot or cover-up, but by the plain, quiet arithmetic of what sells. Nobody pays to remember a rule they can buy their way around. Right up until the day comes that they can't. If you're still here with me this deep into it, You're my kind of person, and I'd take it as a real kindness if you'd subscribe and hit that bell right now, so the next lesson comes straight to you the day I put it out. It's the surest way there is to keep these old ways from going quiet for good. Now let me be straight with you, the way I'd want a man to be straight with me, because I'd rather you trust me than be impressed by me. This isn't likely to happen to most of you, and I won't pretend otherwise, because most of you aren't wintering alone in a trapper's cabin with your whole life riding on a single wood stove. You've got a furnace and a thermostat and a town just down the road. I won't dress this up any bigger than it is. But hear me. Every single thing I told you still holds dead true the night the power goes out. The night a storm takes the lines down across the county. The night you find yourself stranded somewhere warm that quietly stops being warm. And the men it came for, every one of them, thought it couldn't come for them either, right up until the moment the fire died and it had them. And I won't skip the one hard limit, because honesty cuts both ways with me. Getting yourself dry and building your bed off the floor and banking your fire low, all of that is the old free wisdom, and it's as true as sunrise. But if the modern world has handed you a good sleeping bag or a real cold-rated blanket, you use it, and you use it gladly. I'm not so proud of the old ways that I'll let a stubborn streak freeze you stiff just to make some point. The knowing and the good gear together beat either one of them standing alone. A wise man carries both and never apologizes for it. So here's how you carry the whole of it out of here with you, not as fear, but as a plain and simple way of doing things. You never trust the fire to stay lit. You get yourself dry before you ever get comfortable. You build your warmth down into the bed and the boughs and the layers, so it lives on without the flame. You bank your fire low and slow so it carries you clear through to morning. And you remember, above all the rest of it, that the warm room is the one that lies to you, and the cold, open woods is the one that keeps you honest. The danger was never once the storm outside. The danger was the comfort inside, and a man grown too warm and too sure to build for the hour the fire dies. Maybe that's the real lesson here, the one bigger than cabins and bigger than any winter. Those men didn't die because the cold was cruel to them. The cold was only ever just the cold. They died because they were certain. Certain that warm meant safe. Certain that a lit fire meant a living man come morning. The wilderness never kills the humble man half so fast as it kills the sure one. And the old hands feared their own comfort more than they ever feared the cold itself, which is a thing I'd hand down to you ahead of any trick or method I know. So, before you go, do me that one last kindness. Subscribe, give this one a like, and ring that bell so the next one finds you, because there's a good deal more of this old knowing in me, and I mean to keep handing it to you as long as you keep wanting it. And tell me down in the comments, what did your own people do to stay alive through a long, cold night when the fire burned low? I want to hear every bit of it, because half of what I know I learned off somebody else's grandfather, and I'd be a fool to think I've heard them all. And keep this one in the back of your mind for next time, because I've got a strange one coming for you. There's water up in the high country that runs clear and cold and clean off the mountain. Water that looks purer than anything you've ever cupped in your two hands, and it's laid strong men flat on their backs for a week and worse. The old hands had a way of reading that water before they ever filled a single cup from it, and it wasn't the smell and it wasn't the look. I'll show you exactly what it was. Until then, you keep your fire honest, keep your bed dry, and don't you ever trust a warm room to tell you the truth.